I feel like the American dream isn't dead. I feel like the American dream was sales pitch to the US citizens rather than an actual thought provoking way to aspire. Really, the American dream is something we should all decide for ourselves. It shouldn't be a checklist of things that you just mark off once you've achieved them or acquired them. It should be a constant evolution and work in progress of things that you want to achieve and see and experience in life. When you picture your ideal life, whether it be salary, house, travel, the feeling of, what you want to feel every day, I want you to really think about whether or not you chose that. Ask because this is a question I've been battling lately. Basically, I realized that I was spent 40 years in the United States sprinting towards a finish line that I didn't actually pick. Probably more like 30, 35 years, but still. I didn't really fully grasp it until I left and moved to the UK. And then that's when I noticed that track was just there. Growing up in the US, I grew up in New Jersey specifically. For those of you who don't know, the environment I grew up in anyway, nobody sat me down and said, here's what success looks like. Because we don't have to have that conversation in the US. It's just automatically kind of instilled in everything around you instead. The square footage conversation, when you buy your house, the salary conversation or promotion conversation you have at Thanksgiving dinner, retirement accounts that, prove you're a responsible worker and you're planning for the future. You just absorb it because it's all around you, even if you're not directly involved in the conversation. The same way you absorb accent and slang, right? You don't even notice you're doing it. It's just eventually that you start using it and your voice starts to change a little bit because you're around it every single day. And I was really good at it. I'm not trying to be like arrogant or anything, but I played the part really, really well. I hit every marker I was supposed to hit. I was considered exceptional in some cases. I did all of the work. And for years, decades, I thought that meant that I was doing well. I was reaching the American dream and that everything that I was working for was mine and mine alone, my thought process, my goals, my achievements, my hard work paying off. But now I realize there's a difference between choosing a life, I should say, and continuing to move in a direction that you were pointed towards. I was aimed at something and I was told that's the path that you go on, and I kept moving. I was told it was ambition and I believed them. I was on momentum and environmental encouragement, thinking it was drive. Let me give you a concrete example. Healthcare. It's a pretty good one. Usually a pretty good exemplary of the differences between the cultures in the US and the UK. So when I lived in the United States, every single medical decision that I made had a financial calculation, as with most people, I think, that live there. It's constantly running in underneath any medical issue that arises or even potentially could arise. Do I actually have to go to the doctor? Because it's something that I can probably treat on my own. Am I overreacting? Can I wait a week or two to see if it kind of works itself out? What is my deductible right now? Have I reached it yet? Is my doctor in network? There's all of these questions that surround, any ailment, illness, any sniffle even. And after a while, you just stop hearing the calculator or noticing that you have all these additional questions to ask. It just becomes a part of how you think when you have a medical issue. You don't experience it as a burden necessarily because you're experiencing it as normal. And it's just how you operate as an adult in the United States. And everyone around you is doing it, so nothing feels strange, right? You just manage it. You plan around it. You build your life with it factored in the way you would factor in, the location you want to buy a house in or the weather. When I moved to the UK, and the first time that I walked out of GP surgery without paying a penny, without filling in a form, without anyone asking me a single financial question, I didn't feel relieved. I felt disoriented. And I kind of still do now, even 3 years later. Wait, that's it? I just go. And it hit me standing on the pavement outside that I had sort of, in a way, been holding my breath regarding medical issues and doctors and stuff for decades. And not because I was necessarily had a chronic illness or had, any major sickness or injury that I had to deal with, but just because the system that I was in trained me to brace myself all the time, just in case, because I knew that if something did happen, it was going to be financially catastrophic, at least if it was a serious issue. And standing outside the GP for the first time, I just kind of exhaled and released all of that tension that I had been holding on to for all those years. But it took me a while to really get here. I don't even know that I'm fully there yet, in all honesty. It wasn't necessarily that the NHS was better than any medical care that I had in the US. It was that I never once asked myself whether the system that I was living in was actually serving me, was actually, protecting me and making me healthier. I just accepted it. Like the way you would accept a Scantron answer, the way you would accept a ChatGPT response. You find the right bubble, you fit it into it, and you move on. And nobody ever gave me permission to ask or question the response that I was getting or the conditioning that I was feeling from my environment. I also started to recognize the pace. And this one took a lot longer to see, and definitely something that I'm happily adjusting to. It's still adjusting nonetheless. The United States runs on a very particular nervous system state. Productivity is identity, and stillness is considered some kind of failure, or at least a shortcoming. And rest is something that you earn, not something that you need to survive. And if you're not moving forward, and I mean, this is literally felt as an experience in your body. Like I literally have felt this tension in my body on many occasions. Even now, sometimes I catch it as I'm working. That if you're not continuously moving forward and progressing, you're falling behind. You finish one thing and you are already orienting to whatever the next thing is on your list. And the pen isn't even down yet, and you've barely really closed that document. It's really weird because you don't realize you're living that until you move somewhere else, or you escape that environment. And as I said, I'm still even catch myself doing it nowadays, as if sleeping in and sitting down and watching television for an hour is somehow me being lazy and unproductive, even though I had worked straight for 7 days. Here in the UK, people just stop and enjoy the moment. A Sunday pub lunch is not considered an inefficient use of time, even if it takes 4 hours. For the first year or so living here, honestly, that drove me absolutely insane because I felt like I was wasting something. I rushed through my walks. I didn't really enjoy the atmosphere around me that much. I didn't really take time to soak it all in, even though I wasn't working for a little while and had the time. I just always felt like I should be doing something. And then I was kind of bored for a while because I didn't have a lot on my plate. And I'm so used to having my day filled from 6 o'clock in the morning until 8, 9 o'clock at night. My body didn't realize that I was somewhere else and that I could continue working even if I wasn't necessarily working towards something. I had to sort of relearn something I think I knew when I was very young and then had trained out of me, that inability to stop is branded as work ethic in the United States. And I used to be proud of it. I used to think, look at how all I accomplished, look how productive I was today. But now I think it might have just been a little bit more of like fear and anxiety and failure, fear of failure, mainly probably. So this next part, I'm going to be honest, I wasn't sure if I was going to include on my talking points, but thinking about it, these really personal moments seem to be the ones that matter the most in these types of videos. So here goes, vulnerability out there. When you live in any kind of environment, country, setting where school shootings are a category of news, not a crisis, not an emergency anymore, just a category, another normal aspect of life, you start to develop a different kind of relationship with fear, and it doesn't announce itself. It's not really panic. It's not hair on fire. It's not like dread, when you know the inevitable and inevitable negative conclusion is going to happen. It's so much quieter. It's always in the background. I talk about this a lot on all of these videos. It's just it's part of the background hum of living in the US. It's an awareness and an alertness that something terrible could happen at any moment. And there's a 99% chance that there's absolutely nothing you're going to be able to do about it, either before, during, or after. When my daughter was in school in the United States and the school calls, the first thought was always the same thing. Please don't say those words that I think you're going to say. Every single time that I sent her to the bus station, so UK, every single time that I sent her to the bus stop to go to school, having a pit in my stomach for the entire day until she walked through the door again. Sorry. It still gets me emotional thinking about it. Because I still have that tension and fear inside of me, even though I know she's safe here. Even though here in the UK, I can almost guarantee she's going to be safe, right? It's the opposite. It's 99% that she's going to return to me without even a scratch on her. I know I've talked about this before, but it's such a big transition as a parent, moving abroad, leaving the United States, living in the UK, and part of expat life in the UK or immigrant life in the UK, however you want to call it or whatever you consider yourself. It's just something that's always in the back of my mind still, even though by comparison, I know that she's much safer and we're much better off as a family. But when you think about it, it's not like a policy comparison. It's not even really a debate point. It's a completely different internal world, inside. In the United States of America, I was raising a child while managing this kind of anticipatory, is that how you say it? Okay, I'm just going to go with that. Anticipatory grief. So let's say that sentence again so it lands properly for everybody. In the United States of America, I was raising a child while managing this kind of anticipatory grief, right? And I didn't even really understand what it was or have any language for it. Probably didn't even notice it most of the time, except for the pit in my stomach that I definitely noticed every single day. But you don't really feel the entire weight of it until you're able to put it away. It's not a small difference. It's a very huge fundamental difference of experience in experiencing being alive. It's something that I really think that parents, if you're a parent thinking of moving to the UK or a parent from the UK thinking of moving to the US or anyone else that's in the US, and just trying to figure out how to survive a little bit, maybe came across this video. It's something that you can't put into words fully. And being that my child was in middle school, which is just starting secondary school or right around that age, when we moved here, we had so much time of experiencing that. It's really hard for me to let it go completely as I'm learning that I'm still getting emotional talking about it. I don't know. I don't know where it really lands. I mean, 3 years in, I'm definitely not the same person that I was when I got on the plane to get here. And I'm going to be the first person to tell you that the UK is not perfect. I'll never say that. It's, of course, has its problems just like any other country, and it has ways it can improve just like any other country. And it's not that the United States is inherently horrible. It gave me things that are worth keeping, things that I'm always going to value: optimism, belief in myself, energy, the power that things can actually change, the motivation and hope that things can change, the willingness to be ambitious. Those are all really important qualities that I enjoy about myself. And I think push me to even, experience life in the UK to its fullest here. But I'm a different person because I finally stopped just going down that track that was put in front of me, that whether it was family or society or environment in the United States, probably all of them that they put me on, never really asked me about and just threw me to the wolves. But I stopped to ask myself a question that I never really was given permission to ask again: what I really wanted, the life that I really wanted, what I wanted to achieve, what I ultimately wanted my life to look like, rather than what I was told was success, what I was told was the American dream, what I was told you should be aspiring to be and to have. It is really, really exhausting to live on a track that someone else has has put ahead of you and decided for you. And I was so burnt out because I was just constantly in the mode of getting further and further down that track, getting closer and closer to the ultimate American dream. Even though in essence I probably had it because I had the house that I loved, I had a great partner, I had my child was getting a decent education by American standards, I guess. We were doing okay, but I still had this like low grade feeling for what 35, 40 years that something was off and I could never really fully figure it out. I just knew it wasn't what I really wanted. More of something I was performing versus the life that I actually wanted and needed. I feel like the American dream isn't dead. I feel like the American dream was something so like a sales pitch rather than an actual thought provoking way to aspire. Really, the American dream is something we should all decide for ourselves. The British dream is something you should decide for yourself. It shouldn't be a checklist of things that you just mark off once you've achieved them or acquired them. It should be a constant evolution and work in progress of things that you want to achieve and see and experience in life. I really just needed to like get as far away from the script, or at least far enough away from the American dream script and the productivity scripts to just realize that I was even like following a script. Look, you don't have to move to the UK to find this, right? You don't even have to leave your country, your city. You don't have to leave your job. You don't have to blow up your life. You have to figure out what it is for you that you really want. You have to, at some point, just be honest with yourself to look at your own life clearly without the glasses, without the rose tinted glasses on. Are you happy? Is it something you really want? It's something what you're working for, what you're exhausted at, what you're burnt out over. Is it something you really love? Is it something you really want in your life? Or is it something that someone told you you wanted or you felt like you wanted? There is a difference between the life that you're living and the life you actually want. I've realized that. I also had to realize and come to terms and admit to myself that the gap between the two isn't a character flaw. It's information that I never paid attention to. You're allowed to make decisions from the middle, from that gap, from the I don't know. And you don't have to make decisions from guilt or fear, FOMO or any of that stuff. You should make it from some kind of clarity, but it should be your decision at the end of the day.
Hey everybody, what's going on?